Established in January 1974, Kerry Cooperative Creameries Limited, or Kerry Co-op, celebrates a special anniversary, 50 years. This podcast series has been created by Mary Lavery Carrig, based on the first board photographed together in January 1974. This is Mary, and you are welcome to A Chat with Mary, Voices from Kerry Co-op's story. In this episode, episode 7, we hear from Denis Brosnan, a man who led Kerry Co-op and later Kerry plc to astonishing success. I asked Denis Brosnan to speak about his early life. Here is what he said.
I went to St. Brendan's in Killarney, which was secondary school. And when I finished there, it was a case of what course I would pursue in university. And I was very interested, obviously, in farming, in every aspect of farming. So it was a choice between veterinary or probably dairy science. And I chose dairy science because it was Cork, as distinct from veterinary, which would have been Dublin. So I started in UCC with dairy science in 1962, and I finished with a master's degree in 1967. One followed the other, so I finished with a master's degree in the summer of 1967, and we were all looking around, the whole class was looking around what jobs were there, and I saw an advertisement which was from a company called Diversey Chemicals, a Scottish company, that they wanted a salesman to sell industrial detergents in Ireland. And I applied for it. I went to Belfast for an interview, and my first trip to Belfast, and ended up getting the job, which was nice because I got a car, nice salary, and the sales director from Scotland, he gave me 2 weeks travelling around Ireland and said, no, you're on your own. So I was their only person in Ireland. And for the next 6 months, I travelled mostly trying to sell industrial detergents to dairy companies. And one day I turned up in Golden Vale, probably about October 67. And the then general manager, Dave O'Loughlin, said, you're wasting your time travelling around the country. We're going to build a new factory here, and would you come and manage it? And probably the rest of my life was set up and established ever from there. Well, it was great, getting away from St. Brendan's in Killarney, which was a difficult enough boarding school. You had very little time outside. You got out twice in a term. And so all of a sudden, you arrive in University College Cork, go into digs with some other people, and you have the total freedom. So I spent certainly the first term going to cinemas and just enjoying life, and then I had to settle down and work for the exams. The exams came easy to me. I got first class honours and a scholarship after year one. So I never had any problem getting through. In fact, I could spend lots and lots of time enjoying myself and still get the exam come June time. And that would be the year of the Beatles, the Rolling Stones and all those. So I think you can see the first photograph where my hair, when I came back to Kerry, my hair was fine and long, probably the trend at the time. And just wonder why a group of, call it older Kerry farmers, would take on somebody with long hair and at the age of 27 to run their business, but they took a chance. After my first 6 months driving around Ireland selling industrial detergents, as I mentioned, I called to Golden Vale, and the general manager said, we have a job for you. We want you to come and work for us. So come about the 20th of December 1967, I drove the car back to the warehouse in Dublin, put it in there, phoned the sales director for Diversey Chemicals and said, I have a new job. Your car is back in the warehouse. And away I went. And I started in Golden Vale in January 1968. A factory was being built to produce milk replacer, which is milk replacer particularly for calves. And the first thing that happened in January 68, Golden Vale and the general manager said, we want you to go to France to a factory where they make milk replacer and learn all you can about it. I didn't have one word of French, and I went to a factory where they didn't have one word of English, and we had to communicate with sign language and everything else. But I came back to Golden Vale with a reasonable knowledge of how to produce milk replacer. Well, first and foremost, I'm from Kerry, and Kerry people have a very proud tradition. They may be very quiet and certainly not boastful. but they go out and they get the job done. And I suppose that comes very much from the sporting side of it, which is the football field and all the All-Irelands. For me, it was a case of, yeah, we're from Kerry. I daren't say what I'm going to say. When I went back when I had a final dinner in London at the end of 1971, a mentor I had there who was he was a titled English person. He said, "Young Brosnan, what are you doing going back to the arsehole of the empire?" And I will always remember what he said, and I was always going to put Kerry on the map. First of all, in Golden Vale, the new factory I was asked to manage opened in 1968, in the summer of 1968, and I spent 68, 69 and part of 70 managing that facility. But as we moved through 69 into 70 and 71, I knew the science of milk replacer. And even though Golden Vale had their own salespeople, they didn't call it the science. They were salespeople, and I was being pulled into the marketplace to explain, the vitamins, the minerals, the mix that would be very good for initially for animals, which is calves. But we moved from there on to actually doing the same thing for milk replacers for human beings, which is you took away the butter fat, which was expensive, and you put it back in vegetable fat. And I was the scientist who knew it all, so I was being pulled into the marketplace. And then I was asked, would you like to become the overseas sales manager and spend your time back out selling again? And I said, yeah, great. And in September 1970, we got married, Joan Brosnan and I. We got married. She worked in the UK at that time. And I said, yeah, I'm all for going to the UK. So September 1970, and I spent the next 16 months actually living in London. Great times, I was travelling either in the UK or further afield. I had done all North Africa. I had seen all North Africa. Going to the USA was like, almost the same as going from Tralee to Dublin to me. You just get on a plane and go there. Trying to get back home for the weekends, where I went to race meetings, films, going out, having meals. We didn't have any children, and my wife and I had a wonderful time. It was all down to Eddie Hayes, and there's no doubt about that. As Kerry moved along in 1971, they had got a licence from the Irish government to convert milk into casein, which is milk protein. And that happened on or about May, June 1971. And it meant if they were to do that, they had to build a factory, and they needed people to run it and manage it. And so as we moved towards September 71, Eddie Hayes phoned my brother to say, you have your brother in London. Would he ever come back and manage this new factory that we're about to build? It was from Kilfillan, the same parish as Eddie Hayes. They all knew each other, living a few miles apart. So he phoned me saying, will you come back, or at least will you come and do the interview? So I did the interview. I was offered the job, and that was the most difficult decision. I said I was 26, 27 and enjoying London to no end. And would I go back to Kerry? I knew if I went back that I didn't have any fears of actually building a factory. I had done one in Golden Vale. I didn't have any fears of selling the product it would produce, wherever that might be, whether it be Europe, Africa or the United States. I had been there, done that, maybe not all the years of experience, but I spent a few years at it. And no fear, it was a case of would we come back and give up London? Anyway, my decision was, yes, we would come back.
I wish to say a sincere thank you to Denis Brosnan. Thank you too to Charlie Nelligan for concertina music. You have been listening to a podcast series, Episode 7, from A Chat with Mary, Voices from Kerry Co-op's Story. This is Mary Lavery Carrig, and thank you for listening.